Somewhere between the early morning alarm and the last exhausted sigh before sleep, a question quietly stirs. What have I really been living for? Have you ever found yourself caught in that endless cycle, waking up before dawn, squeezed into crowded buses, or stuck in relentless traffic, facing bosses who demand more than you can give, chasing impossible targets, swallowing harsh words, all while quietly burying your own pain? It's a familiar story for many. A life built on sacrifice, less sleep, fewer moments of joy, dreams pushed further into the shadows, all traded for a promise. Security. But what happens when that security turns out to be fragile, or worse, an illusion? Imagine reaching the age when you should finally rest, only to discover the safety net is full of holes. Some never accumulate enough to retire, others find their pension barely covers medicines or rent, and many have no choice but to keep working until their body protests in silence. This reality, where survival means sacrificing health and spirit, cuts deep. It shakes the very core of anyone who once held dreams or hoped for something more. And when we pause long enough to see it clearly, the weight presses heavily against the chest. Why, after decades of relentless effort, do we find ourselves more broken than fulfilled? The system slowly drains us, stealing energy, devouring enthusiasm, leaving behind uncertainty and fear of what tomorrow holds. At some point, the question must be asked, why am I still pushing through this exhausting routine without making space for myself? What do I truly want to feel when I look back years from now? It's a gentle yet urgent invitation to face a truth often hidden beneath paychecks and benefits. Security that only comes from a job can mask a far deeper emptiness, because when a lifetime is devoted solely to work, it's easy to lose sight of the self beneath the role, the person whose passions, hopes, and authentic voice wait silently in the background. Many grow up believing success means climbing the ladder, studying hard, getting a stable job, a steady paycheck, good health coverage. Yet beneath that surface, an unspoken emptiness lingers, one that cannot be filled by titles or material comfort alone. Have you ever known someone who, despite having a stable career, carries a vague feeling that something is missing? That slow-burning dissatisfaction that whispers quietly, unnoticed? The routine of early mornings, tedious commutes, and autopilot days consumes the essence of who we are. Now imagine life not as a monotonous sequence of repetitive days, but as a chance to awaken the genuine self within. The quiet call of buried talents, dreams boxed away under piles of bills and endless demands. Time and again we set aside what truly moves us, whether it's art, caring for others, a desire to create or connect. These dreams sit in the background, waiting as we push forward through meetings, reports, and pressures that, frankly, could wait. But then, what happens when life suddenly shocks us awake? When the body starts sending warning signs, insomnia creeping in, anxiety tightening its grip, that persistent fatigue refusing to lift. How often do we ignore these messages? We push on, numb to the signals that something inside us is breaking. Working out of obligation, without joy or meaning, becomes the cruelest waste of our time. There will come a moment when the body says, enough. And if by then we haven't found something that feeds our soul beyond the paycheck, we face a vast emptiness. When that time comes, and it often arrives unexpectedly, we don't greet it with relief. Instead, we stumble into a silent void. We start to wonder, who am I without the title, without the routine that shaped me? What remains when the badge is taken away and the familiar role dissolves? This painful emptiness, the one many only recognize late, in retirement or after a sudden change, has nothing to do with money. It is the hollow left by a lifetime spent feeding the outside world while starving the inner one. From this space, anxiety, depression, or simple despair can easily take root. The identity tied solely to being useful, delivering results, or standing out collapses. Suddenly we feel invisible, as if worth is measured only by what we produce. But here's a truth worth holding on to. Work itself is not the enemy. Work is dignified. It can bring meaning, connection, and fulfillment. The danger lies in making work the only source of purpose, the anchor holding all our meaning in place. When that happens, our sense of self becomes fragile. dependent on external circumstances. A layoff, an economic downturn, a health crisis, any disruption can feel like the ground shifting beneath us, threatening to undo everything. So, ask yourself gently, where does my true purpose live? Am I seeking meaning inside, or merely echoing a path laid out since childhood? That question can be unsettling. If you've never asked it before, the journey inward may feel slow, uncertain. But the good news is simple. As long as you breathe, it's never too late to reconnect with what makes your heart beat. Maybe you have an old talent waiting, a gift for painting, cooking, listening, or creating. Perhaps there's a calling to care for others, to write, to nurture a garden, to simply be present in new ways. Ignoring these impulses, staying trapped in routine mode, signals a deep disconnect with your own soul. And in the long run, losing touch with yourself risks ending the journey without truly having lived. Even beyond 40, 50, 60 years, beginnings are possible. Small steps, quiet moments, these can become the doorway to rediscovery. Take a few minutes each day to ask, what would I do if money wasn't a worry? Recall childhood joys. Remember the projects abandoned for being impractical. Write down tiny actions you might take, revisiting a hobby, walking in nature, talking to someone wise, exploring free courses or discussions that spark curiosity. You don't need to quit your job immediately. You can hold on to what sustains you and slowly carve out space for new life. A night photography class, a blog about what moves you, growing herbs on a windowsill. Each step adds richness to the days already lived. Slowly you'll feel the stirring of dormant talents, a lightness returning, a sense of meaning waking from its slumber. Now take a deep breath and ask yourself truly, how do I want to arrive at the end of my story? Do you wish to reach that moment with a heart full of lightness, knowing you invested in true connections, passions that fed your soul, moments that made life worth living? Or will you arrive burdened, weighed down by the realization that you limited yourself to a routine that drained you dry? The truth is harsh but freeing. When we surrender to a relentless pace, working without pause, without looking inward, we become prisoners of a culture that values humans only for their output. But you, bearing all your experiences, wisdom and capacity to love, deserve so much more. There comes a time when the invitation is clear, to redefine what safety means. Is safety living decades in a role that steals your joy? Or is it having a purpose so strong it holds meaning at any age, through every change and uncertainty? The key lies in learning to be gentle with yourself, in discovering new ways to care for your spirit, to honor your needs and to reinvent who you are. Do not let fear of the unknown, the comfort of the familiar, or society's outdated expectations keep you trapped. Life does not have to be a monotonous race, a series of empty days slipping by. It can be a journey of awakening, a path where each step uncovers more of the truth you carry inside. So I leave you with this question, not to answer right now, but to sit with in silence. When the noise fades, when all the roles fall away, when you are simply you, what story do you want to tell?